Well, let's head to New York and speak with the former Greek finance minister, George Papaconstantinou. He joins me now. Good afternoon, Mr. Papaconstantinou. Ms. Merkel is mulling over the possibility of being more generous towards Greece. Should she?
It's not a question of generosity as much as a question of common sense. The fiscal consolidation in the last 2 years has been enormous, and it's over 8 percentage points of GDP reducing the deficit. And the Greek economy is in a serious recession. It's lost 1/5 of its total wealth, 20% down in the last 5 years. So you need easier, in the sense of more time, to meet the kind of deadlines that have been set, and thereby allow the economy to start growing again.
But it's not just time, though, Mr. Papaconstantinou, is it? The reality of it is, as you say, the contraction, I think S&P say it'll contract by about 10 to 12% over the next 2 years. They need more money. Isn't that the reality? Anywhere between 12 and 20 billion. That is the reality, isn't it?
That's true, but it's very hard to get to the reduction in the deficit that everyone wants to see with a shrinking economy and a reduction in the revenue base. The economy this year is going to shrink between 6 and 7%. It was predicted to shrink around 4–4.5%. So it's clear that something's going to give. And it makes sense, even though it does cost more money, to give it more time.
Just to go back slightly, you say, you corrected me and said it's not about generosity, it's about common sense. But the latitude that has been afforded to Greece, I mean, we've had a restructuring, we've had a whole variety of extensions and measures to Greece, and it's about complying with the Troika terms, and that seems to be difficult for Greece to do. So it is, to a certain extent, generosity of cash, time, money and patience by the rest of Europe.
Well, if you do want a Eurozone that is intact with all the members in, then you cannot approach this in moral terms. You approach this in terms of what makes sense. And what you've seen the last few years is, despite the criticism we've heard about delays in reforms, etc., we've seen an unprecedented fiscal consolidation. No one has done this before. And in no other country in Europe, at least, we've seen drops in real wages of 40%. We've seen taxes go up so high. We've seen an economy being changed with the kind of reforms in the pension system, in the tax system, in labor markets, as fast as has happened in Greece. The OECD last year, in its report, said that Greece is the fastest changing economy in Europe and within its group. So
but do you think that that's for the? Do you think that that is for the good? Do you think that's for the better? Do you think that's for the good?
Yes, we have clawed back about half of the lost competitiveness since the entry into the euro with the reforms of the last 2 years. And this year, the economy will be able to run a primary surplus, which means that we will be able to spend less than what the state has in terms of revenue. So that's the path to recovery, and that's the path to a well-functioning economy.
Tell me this, George. The European Central Bank has always been very clear about not being prepared to take losses on their holdings of Greek sovereign bonds. I mean, to show progress, Mr. Draghi is a man that uses rhetoric of progress. Do you think it's time now for the ECB to reconsider that position and to extend their hand to help Greece and take a loss on their bonds?
If you look at the evolution of the ECB over the last 2 years, it's been actually tremendous. Some things have been done without saying so, but the ECB has moved quite a lot in the last 2 years. I think it's time for it to take the next step. How exactly does it is a question of finessing it, if you will, but I think that the ECB will have to take a loss on its holdings to Greece. The official sector will have to take a loss just as the private sector has done so. And that also will be a very important signal to the market, because it will be a signal about seniority. It will be a signal that will reassure investors that in the long term, once the economy recovers, they can again have faith in the Greek economy. So yes, I do think that one way or another, the official sector will have to take a hit as well.
And when you hear the kind of rhetoric from Jens Weidmann, who's the head of the Bundesbank, obviously very vocal about his position in regards to Spain, do you think, Mr. Papaconstantinou, that he can be overcome and brought on side to consider what you've just said?
I think that most economists will agree that the solution to not just to Greece, but to the whole Eurozone problem is fairly well defined. It's some kind of debt mutualization, it's some kind of a Europe-wide banking guarantee, and a stronger fiscal coordination with more control, if you will, over national budgets. The problem is getting over some of the political, the kind of political issues that you have in a number of countries. Germany is one. So yes, I think that it will be a difficult task to convince both certain parts of the German establishment and parts of the German electorate, but it's the only way to save the euro. If we don't do that, then the Europe will be doomed.
I want one final comment, Mr. Papaconstantinou, on privatization. You didn't make much headway yourself. The target was 50 billion. Why is this policy not being pushed harder and more progressively?
Well, we started off late, that is true. However, in the original Troika program, privatization was not a big item, because it was felt that you have to stabilize the economy first. Unfortunately, in the last few months, because of the double elections, everything has been frozen. But there's a number of very important state assets which are out, and that include energy assets. They include a lot of land. They include ports, airports. So what you will see in the next 6 months is a very big privatization push.
Well, we wait to see those results from New York. Former Greek Finance Minister George Papaconstantinou, great to have you with us today.